All right, so what I'm going to be showing you is the new TTRPG that I made. It's called Surpass, and showing you the module, the Foundry module, system module that I made at the same time, uh, because it's the best way to kind of show you what this game is about. It is based on a 2d6 roll high, so it does have a bell curve to it, but not. The more dice you add, the tighter the bell curve is, and I did want a little bit of a swinginess to it, but I wanted to keep the numbers really low. So it is all with 2d6. That means that the numbers are a little bit easier to manage, I find. But it's also a little bit finicky too. So again, this is the first release of it. So if after playing it, it doesn't work out, I can always change the engine of it to maybe have instead of D6s, use D8s or 10s. 10s like Draw Steel, 12s like um, Dagger Heart. But I want to try to keep it low to start with because it's easier to go expand than to contract for it to work. So it is heavily influenced by GURPS, though definitely does not use the GURPS engine at all. Um, GURPS engine is quite different than Surpass, but it is heavily influenced the fact that it is not class or level based. It is skill based. Your characters, and it is generic. It's built for whatever genre that you want. Um, so I mean, some of you may have seen my space TTRPG that's based off of Dungeons and Dragons. But this is supposed to cover all genres, no matter what. So fantasy, um, cyberpunk, if you want steampunk, space, supers, whatever, doesn't matter. Or time traveler, which is this will be really good for time traveling because it all should work together. So that's why I say it's kind of heavily inspired by GURPS, but definitely the engine is quite a lot different. So the idea is roll 2d6 to go against your target. A target, whether it be a DC difficulty or someone's defense, like physical defense or mental defense. And I am basing it off of also just one roll for hit and damage, or hit and effect if it's not damage. So if you are let's say here is Nyx, and she is going to use her short bow. So the idea is I'm going to attack this cult acolyte. When I roll my attack, it is supposed to get higher than the defense, and however much that it go, however much it surpasses the defense, that's how much damage you do. So that's the whole idea, is the one roll for attack and damage. So similar to that way, in a way, draw steel, DC 20, draw steel does you automatically hit, and this is how much damage you do on a roll. Although they have tables and stuff, it's a little bit more complicated on draw steel. And DC 20 is you roll the D20, and the higher, every 5 higher that you surpass the DC by, then you get an extra point of damage. But I just have it straight math, where you can see over here the attack roll total was 12. The target's PD was 8, so it did 4 damage, and my software automatically removed the 4 damage for it. So that's the whole basis of the engine. 2d6, roll high, add your abilities and stuff, which we'll go over, and whatever it surpasses the DC by, whether it be physical defense or mental defense, that's the effect of it. If you roll double one, snake eyes, it is considered a critical failure, which means even if you technically hit the enemy, because your attack rolls are so high and they're so low, it is still a miss. And a natural 12, like boxcars, it's exploding dice. So it'll automatically roll another d6 and add it to it. If you get a 6 on that, you get to roll again, and so on. So that's how the critical successes work. Normally, if you're going up against a DC of something, like not necessarily an enemy, but let's say you're trying to pick a lock or remove a trap or something like that. If you get 5 higher than the DC, it's considered a critical success, if that matters. And if you get 5 lower than the DC, then it's considered a critical failure, again, if it matters. So similar to Pathfinder in that way. Actually, a lot of systems have been using it recently. Um, if you have 5 higher or 5 lower, different degrees of success. Different degrees don't necessarily matter for all skills and all things, but it's there in case it does. All right, let's talk about the attributes then. I only have 3: might, agility, and clarity. Might is both strength and health, or con, or whatever you want to call it. It's all kind of built into one. So you could totally have someone with high might that isn't a muscle bound, orc or barbarian or something like that. They could just be extremely, do a lot of yoga, a lot of health. Agility, of course, that's pretty natural. Because been a lot of times when you think of any sort of like superhero or in any genre, it's usually, are they strong or are they agile? That's the kind of two different tacks. Clarity, of course, is your mental. I didn't want to use the word intelligence or wisdom or anything like that. I think nowadays our today's English language has gone past that type of thing. Intelligence isn't even a really modern word because it means so many things now, and it can also be used derogatory in a way. So clarity is a little bit more of what we're actually into. The Obviously the higher the better, and you can go into negatives, and this is the actual bonus or penalty that you do to your rolls. So if they're based off of might for this Nick's quick step, it'll be -1 to the rolls. Uh, and then some of your stats get derived from that. So for example, your physical health will be 8 modified by your might. So right now it is 7 for this person. Yes, the health numbers are low, but also the results are a lot lower. Damage is going to be a lot lower, so keep it tight, similar to DC 20 in that way. You can, of course, increase your health and so on in character building. We'll get to that. Mental health is based off of clarity instead of might. So, and also your mental defense is based off of it's also 8 plus your clarity. So clarity actually kind of double dips, so to speak, is not only the defense, it's also the health, mental health, while in physical defense is based off of agility and armor and stuff and other things, but is 8 plus your agility plus other things, and your health is based off of might. So your two physical stats change depending on your physical defense and your physical health, while your mental defense and mental health is based both off of clarity. If you go to 0 in mental health, you're just unconscious. If you go to 0 on physical health, you're actually not unconscious, but you are dying. But we'll get to the dying things in a little bit. Let's go to skills. Now, this is kind of where the whole system is built off of. So there I have about 240 skills, I think. It seems like a lot, especially when you look at Pathfinder's got like 12, D&D's got like 20, or not even 20, I don't think, and I think Draw Steel has got like 30 different skills. This is a skill-based system, and it's also covering all genres. So one thing I do know is that people really like to customize their character. That's one of the things they want. They want to be able to do whatever they want to make their character, but they also want, of course, the game itself to be easily run, and that is my goal for this one. I mean, I've played a lot of games. I play almost every day, and I play a different variety of games. So I've had a lot of experience with and a lot of exposure to different games and somewhat. So this one, I really wanted it to be easy to use, but very detailed on what your character is want. So this particular person I'm looking at, Nick's Quick Step, I put in stealth, bow, acrobatics, perception, knife, and these are the different. In Foundry, I've made it so it's a little bit easier to find. Of course, you can use the keyword search here, but I've put them in in folders to make it easy. And just the level of detail in Surpass, I don't just have a unarmed attack. I have 6 different types of unarmed attacks. And boxing will be really good at striking, not so good at tripping and throwing and stuff. But then, you may want to look at judo, and it is not so good at striking, but really good at grappling and throwing and tripping. So I know a lot of this is flavor, but it helps you build your character how the way you want it. And the skill-based system you get about up to rank 4. So I think that's similar to Pathfinder that way, where you can your level, you can buy points in a skill to get a little bit better at it. Skill is also usually based off of a type of attribute. So stealth is built off agility, not a particular shock there. There's also the difficulty of the ability. There's 4 different abilities, and that changes how many points it costs to get those points in that skill. Um, there's defaults to skills, so if you don't have any points in stealth, you can still roll an agility -3 or clarity -3 to be able to do it. There's tech tiers, which we'll get into a little bit of that, but in short, is if sometimes skills are attached to a tech tier. For example, there's lots of science ones. Does mathematics have a tech tier? Yeah. So because the mathematics in tier 1 is going to be a heck of a lot different than 12 plus. So an idea of what the tech tiers are as well is 0 is caveman, 1 is like Bronze Age. 2 is kind of like Iron Age. 3 is like your normal fantasy game. 4 is like they call it the Age of Sail, the 1450s style. Um, 5 is more like the I'm going to say 1800s. Uh, yeah, or no, more like Industrial Revolution is tier 5. That's like 1730 plus. Your That's 5. 6 is mechanicized age. That's 1880s. That's your cowboys and robbing the trains and that type of thing. 7 is your nuclear age, so 1940. So you can totally do a World War II type adventure in this system. 8 is digital age, 1980 plus. Um, get some good spy stuff in there, some good James Bond style works in there. 9 is, we call it microtech age. That's like the modern age right now. We're maybe a little bit past that. So your cyberpunk would actually be more tech level 9 because that's like very near future. So that's that. 10 is robotic age. 11 is the age of exotic magers. So that's like um, you're looking at Star Trek, that type of thing, and 12, it can go higher than that depending on your imagination. So that's the tech tiers. Specialty, because sometimes, like for example, even this mathematics skill says you have to specialize. So you can specialize in computer science. So you would put that specialty in there. And a lot of times, the specialties they default off of each other. For example, right here, mathematics defaults to one another by -2. So if you have cryptology, you can go to statistics and just roll it at a -2. And I mean, I don't have anything like advantage or disadvantage in this game. It is mostly just add bonuses or subtract minuses from a particular skill or a role that you're doing. So that's the skills. So, oh yeah, and the skill checks are normally I have it as 8 is your average one. It's pretty easy to do because if you think about it, you roll 2d6 and you add your skill and your attribute. So a lot of times an 8 is actually quite easy because usually you roll a 7 on 2d6. That's easy. And you usually get a bonus of something, and then you're gonna whatever you're trying to do, you're gonna succeed almost every time. But also a lot of checks, if you think about it too, 10 is usually a fairly good one as well. Uh, and also remember, just like most other TTRPGs, you don't roll for everything, right? You only roll when there's a chance of failure. So climbing a ladder, you shouldn't have to make a climbing check. But if you're climbing up a brick wall, then you probably should. Distances in here are in meters because most of the world is metric now. We should embrace it. So you even have here the default move, by the way, is 6. Uh, but then you see her might is down a little bit, so it's a little bit lower in the move. And I also calculated the jump speeds and everything that in Foundry. So run is jump. So if you get a running start, you can go 2 meters. If you just stand, it's 1 meter, and a high jump, you can jump up 2 meters. So these, it's already calculated in there uh, of the math for it for how much you can jump. But move is basically 6 meters. And everything in the game, if it has a measurement, it is in meters. For those of you who don't know meters, it's okay. A meter is very close to a yard. So it's the same type of thing. Conditions. I don't have a billion type of conditions in Surpass because I didn't think it was really needed. I don't like, Dungeons and Dragons got like 12 different conditions and they all mean very slightly different things. Pathfinder's got like 20. Again, they're very different things. It's just if you're poisoned, so to speak, you have -1 on everything. And I have a condition penalty over here, so whatever I put in there, uh, it is going to be -1 to all rolls. So I have a poison condition. Oh, and I'm also diseased. Okay, then it's now 2. Oh, and I'm stunned. 3. So whatever type of condition, it's just a minus on all the rolls. And I really am trying to make sure that no one skips their turn. I don't like things like stun gives you, you can't act on your turn. That's not fun for anybody. So I make sure that is just another condition. So stun means you get -1 on all your rolls. So that's how I'm doing conditions for now. Just it makes it's clean, it's easy to apply, and it still, it still matters, and they stack. Uh, there's still things like prone and unconscious and all that type of stuff. So unconscious, unfortunately, you can't do anything when you're unconscious. So, but that's when your mental health goes to 0. That's when you're unconscious and you don't do anything in that turn. But you're not bleeding or nothing like that. So there's at least that. But if your physical health goes to 0, was it not putting it to mental status is awake? All right. So, let's say I'm dying now. So what I have is death marks for dying. Oh, and if you are dying, you still can move at least 1 meter or do a minor action. You can't do a major action when you're dying, but you can still do something. So on your turn, you're, crawling away from danger or being defensive. We haven't got into what the minor actions do yet, but you can still do some things on your turn, and then you do a death check. And this is very similar to the Pathfinder version. They call it death marks from here, but if you get up to 4, you're dead. And it is a 2d6, and it's modified by what your might is, and also modified by how many death marks you have. So the more, so if I do a death, oh, I am not dying because I'm not in combat. That's probably why it's thinking that. Can I do that quick combat for a sec here? Let me put you back up to 7 just to show you. We haven't got into the combat rounds yet and stuff, but we will. So I'm going to begin the encounter. Players first. Start. So player does their thing. I don't care. The cult is going to attack with their dagger, and I'm going to add I'm distance penalty. Sorry, is knowing I'm throwing it, so it's already calculated there. The distance is 2. We haven't got to this part, but I'm just showing you anyway. The range increment is -1 for every meter you throw, so the penalty is -2. And if I use a minor action to aim, I get a +1 on that. But I'm going to say +30. Why? Because I want to be able to actually do the damage I'm trying to do. So 37. All right, so that's a damage of a whole bunch. So now she is dying, right? Oh, I never hit the play on her turn. So now it is her turn. So she is dying. Remember to roll your death check. And I'll put our character sheet up here too so you can see. There it is, status dying there. currently she has 0 death marks. So I roll my death check. Yes, she's dying. Oh, here's an error that I'm going to need to deal with. Supposed to be able to do it right in there. Clearly it's not working. So I'll have to fix that out. So here's a death check. Any kind of roll will also come up with this number where you can quickly add a modifier to it, because sometimes, as you know, in TTRPGs, sometimes there's a modifier on the roll on the go that you don't need to, figure out in here. Where do I add that? Just add it right there. So I failed. Beautiful. Result is 2 minus 1 because of my might, and so I have now a dying check mark of 1. Somebody can come along and stabilize you with either first aid or whatnot, and then you can click on stable, and they are now stable. But if someone hurts you again, then you're going to be, going to your death checks again. So the heart, I'm not dying, so unstable. Death check again. I failed again. Because you see the death check versus 8, and now it's death check versus 10 because how many death marks are on me. And then, so the farther on you go, the closer to death you are. And, 3, and then I need to roll again, and now I'm dead because I bucked it. By that point, the DC is 14 by that level. So, but look at that. She's no longer dying, and she's stable again. And I can take a 10-minute breather and get my might back, minimum 1 in health. Full rest gives you, I know I'm jumping ahead with all the rules, but as they're coming up, I'm kind of explaining them, which is probably not the best way of doing it. But also, I guess I should show you too that character building is by points. So there's point buy. I know in D&D and so on, there's a point buy for stats. Pathfinder doesn't have that, but it's still really structured of how you can build your character. But for this one being a skill based, you start with normally 100 points, but you can, like, if you're going in the future and you think 100 points is enough, you need more heroic heroes, go ahead and put in like 250 or whatever. It doesn't matter. And also after every game session, the GM may give you some points to spend later. So, so maybe it gives you 10 points and it says that, okay, I've spent 100 and I have 10 left. And you spend your points on your attributes. It even has a little total down here. Skills, traits, status, wealth, size, health, move, because you can add it directly to your health, and languages. So there's a lot to spend it on. So your status is social standing. Obviously, you can be a lower class and it'll give you points back. You can be upper class and it'll spend the points. And that is, I've kind of combined both social status and rank. So if you're doing any sort of social skill, and if it matters, the difference between your social status and theirs will be a bonus or subtraction from your roll, in case that matters, because sometimes social status doesn't matter, but sometimes it does. So that's what that is. Wealth. I'm not doing individual monies. I think that's dull to keep track of how many gold pieces or credits or dollars and stuff that you have. Instead, I'm having a wealth value. So everything when you purchase something will have a wealth value tied to it. And if it's under your wealth, you can purchase it without any issue of how much does it personally cost. If there's a current here I know you're looking at. So if you buy something that's equal to your wealth score, your current score actually goes down. So because you've spent all your money, so to speak, on that big item. And then after a significant amount of downtime, you can earn it back to whatever your maximum wealth is. You can change your wealth by points. So if I'm wealth of 4, you can see that I spent 10 points. But if you want to start like, penniless, hey, that gives you 30 points to spend on other things. A lot of the times, if in play you come across a dragon horde or something, what the GM will tell you is, hey, increase your wealth by 1, and they give you the 10 points to be able to do that. So it still can be done in play. You don't have to, so that's like a free 10 points that the GM can give you, um, just to increase your wealth for something that you find. Size. Size changes a few things. If I make you small, it gives you 10 points back. So the smaller you are, the more points you get back. The larger you are, actually, the more points you get. And you can see that the token actually automatically changes, which is nice. Um, because the size modifier actually changes your defense. So the smaller you are, the harder it is for them to hit you. The larger they are, the easier it is for them to hit you. But that's the benefit. That's the only benefit of being small, or ones that in mathematical anyway, because your size is also adjusted on your attack rolls. Because tiny hands have a hard time, even with like your tiny little bow. Because even if your weapons are built for your size, right, you're going to have minuses on your attack rolls because of how big the either you are or the weapon is. But the same is the other way around too. You're going to add for because Ray says here with a minus on the physical defense, but everything else that's a plus. It's also a bonus on your move. The bigger you are, the bigger your stride is, so your move gets higher. So the same thing with tiny, right? Your move goes down because you have tiny short legs. Maybe you have a fly speed though. Well, that kind of thing. So usually if you're creating a character, if you're human, you're going to be either medium or small, but maybe you have gigantism, or maybe you're not going to play a human. You're going to play an elf, or a fairy, or an ogre, or something like that. All okay in this game. I mean, as long as it's okay for your GM. So if you're saying, I'm going to play an ogre and you're playing a space game with only humans, then they're probably going to say something about it. But that is the size modifier for that. Let's talk a bit about well, why don't we just go through the character sheet to make it a little bit easier this way? Languages. You start with one native language that you get for free. That's why it says native language and there's fluent. So I'm going to be able to speak common, and that's easy. Now, if you want to add some languages, now I haven't listed all the languages because how do I know? How do I know in your world what the languages are going to be? Because maybe it's a fantasy game, maybe it's a space game, maybe it's in modern day and it's just the languages of the world. So it's English is you're fluent, or maybe, and then you have the other languages. So languages do have you put points into it as well, and there's three different language skill ranks. So there's broken, accented, and fluent. So if you add a language, and let's say this one's going to be Orc, broken only costs 1 point. So if you want to put it to accented, it costs another point. So it's basically 1 point per level, and it also is a minus on your, like if you're fluent, you have no problems. It's like you don't even have an accent. Like it's I don't know. I think you know what fluent means. So there's no modifiers on your social roles. But if you're trying to socialize in a with an accented voice, it gets you a -1 on your social roles, and then of course broken gives you a -2. So that's why I have three different levels of uh, of languages. I also have up here, just if you're in Foundry and if you just want extra physical health or extra mental health or extra move score, you can totally just buy it. And it costs, 5 points for a move. Costs 4 points per mental stat, and physical health, it just costs 4 as well. So you can always just boost it. You don't have to boost your might and so on to get just pure movement or mental health and so on. Because might, of course, that changes a lot of things. That's why it's more expensive. Oh, I never even showed you. It's 20 per. So that's why you see the score here. The attributes it manages. It's a lot for attributes because that's the base, right? And that everything is derived off of those things. That's why it costs so much for that. Why don't I talk about in combat? There are three different actions. There is a move action, a minor action, and a major action. The move action, I shouldn't have to tell you what that is. You move up to your move. Uh, However, you can also swap with a friend as a move action. So as long as they're willing, you can switch places on your turn, so you don't have to wait for this guy's turn to be able to switch places with them as a move action. Getting up from prone is a move action, so that means being knocked prone is a major deal. That's not the right one. So, but getting up is a move. So for you to be able to get up and then run away, you're going to have to use an action to replace into a move action. And that's something I didn't yet say. But a major action you can turn into either a minor action or a move action if you want. So move action up to your space, or get up from prone, or switch places with somebody. Minor actions, drawing a weapon or switching weapons is a minor action. I wanted to keep that way. I know D&D you can do it um, tons of free all the time, and that's sort of nice but a little bit unrealistic. Plus there's some skills like fast draw and so on that'll help. So minor action, you can draw a weapon, open a door, something like that. A minor action to also reload your weapon. So if you have a bow, you have to actually use a minor action to load. And there's two rather major minor uh, minor actions that are important are your defense or aim. So if you spend normally, if you don't have a shield or anything like that, or any special abilities otherwise, if you defend, it adds 1 to your physical defense. If you do have a shield, then it actually changes it quite a lot. This guy has a large shield, and he has shield skill. So it's going to add his shield skill and the defensive bonus to his shield when he defends. So it goes from 13 to 17. Kind of a big deal. So shield good. A shield does nothing for you if you don't use the minor action to defend. So that's similar to the Pathfinder's raise a shield action, where you actually have to do something to make your shield useful. Um, And then there's the aim action. Aim normally gives you just a +1. So if I'm going to go attack this guy with my broadsword, and here it says use aim to +1 attack. So this is my matter action to aim. I'll add that extra +1. And wow, I still hit. This guy's I rolled badly, but still hit and did a little bit of damage. Hey, so it's like draw steel. You always hit when you're good at something anyway. And the guy's really wimpy and wearing cloth. If you're using a ranged weapon, and maybe I should even take a look at maybe more of let's go to a space type game here. And let me get the Captain Rax Calder here. And he has a laser rifle. And if you look at the laser rifle, it has an accuracy bonus. Wow, that's pretty good. Laser rifle. So when you have an accuracy bonus on your weapon and you use the aim attack, it adds that accuracy to the aim. So, I mean, these are major weapons in the future, but I think you'll find also, let's say if we go back to the fantasy one, Quick Step has got a short bow and her accuracy is 1. So her aim is going to be an extra 1. So it'll be if she attacks and aims, it says right here, it'll be +2 because the item is +1, and then there it rolls. So a lot of those minor actions, they mean something. They're quite a lot. And if you think about it too, a bow has to be reloaded. Again, I have in here the range increment is good. Shots. Like that's how many shots you have to do to reload. So if you're going to try to shoot a bow every round, you're not going to be able to aim because you're going to have to take out an arrow. Now, if you really want to specialize in that bow stuff, you can totally do take a fast draw skill in where do we have? That's the fast draw arrow. So that means you don't have to use your minor action to quickly draw your arrow and load it. So you could aim every single time on an attack. It's just aim and shoot. But I mean, those are decisions that you make, right, when you're building your character. I also want to show that this is the range increment. So every 10 meters, it minuses 1. Obviously, for thrown weapons and so on, it's going to be, you can't throw a broadsword. But thrown weapons, a lot of the times the range increments are not near as good. They're like sometimes 1 or 2 meters for every -1. But something like a short bow is 10, and it should automatically, unless I did something really wrong here, so it should automatically put the range increment in it. So if I'm going to attack, look, already it says that. Distance is 10.7 meters, the increment's 10, it adds -1. So already there. Things like some cover rules, I just said +1 for light cover, +2 for heavy cover. And I didn't put any cover buttons in here because there's a right next to your physical defense or mental defense, or just a modifier that you can modify yourself. So I have full or heavy cover on me. I'm just going to do that. I didn't make any sort of fancy dice or something like that. So that's why there's a number next to the physical and mental defense of your characters, because if there's something that isn't in the defend or anything like that, then you can just quickly add it to it and go. Okay, so resting, full rest, much like D&D, and no, not Pathfinder, but D&D. If you click the full rest, you get all your health back and all your mental health back. So very similar to that. However, in a 10-minute breather, I always thought the short rest of D&D was too long, if that makes sense. So a 10-minute breather gives you your might in physical health back and your clarity back in mental health minimum of 1. Oops, I hit the wrong button. So if I do a 10-minute breather, it just adds the might and adds minimum of 1 of clarity to that. So it's nice to be able to get a quick thing to your health back. Oh, what have I got? Falling damage. I just have a falling damage button here to really help. But basically, if you fall, it's how many meters you fall minus the 2 meters at the end divided by 2. So if you're falling 10 meters, it's really 8. Divided by 2 is 4 damage. But if you make an agility check and succeed, then you take half damage. And it's a lot for some people to think about. So I click falling damage. How long am I? I'm saying 10 meters. Post to chat. I'm going to try to break my fall. No modifier in that, just my plain agility, because I don't have the falling or agility. So 5, I failed. I am just going to apply full damage. Boom. Did it? Did I hit the... something's not working. There we go. I got to fix this. But it's supposed to actually apply the falling damage to you. And for throwing, I've done it just plain math. If you shove somebody 2 meters, let's say 3 meters, and after 2 meters, you run into somebody. So you take how far you've already gone, 2 meters. You say how far you were supposed to go, 3 meters, and then, you would take the leftover as damage. So if I throw Bran into Sir Rowan, they both take 1 damage. If I throw Bran into a wall, then he takes 2 meters away when he's supposed to throw him 3, he takes 1 damage. So a little simple math for that when it comes to throws and so on. And you can totally grapple somebody 1 round. Grappling is an action, major action. And the next major action, throw them into somebody. Totally derived off of a little bit of DC 20 and a little bit of draw steel that way. When it's really fun to throw people through stuff. Makes it fun. Resistances, built off of Pathfinder this way, where it's either you're immune to it, or if you have a number in here, that's the damage that gets reduced by. So if you have a damage reduction of 1 in, actually let's not do What damage does this guy do? He's going to do piercing damage with his dagger. So if I have piercing 1, resistance to it. Who was that I just opened? It was Bran. Okay. And my cult acolyte is going to attack with my dagger, and I'm totally going to put plus 20. No, well, that's probably too much. 5, so I can see the roll. Ooh, I rolled a 6. Look at that. I got my exploding die in there. So critical success, exploding die, I just got a 1. Before range, piercing hit for 7 damage because there actually was a range. Interesting. And then the modifier got reduced by 1 damage because of the piercing. So that's already built in. You can do -1 for vulnerability, let's say, right? There's no double damage for vulnerability. I think that's too much, to be honest. But if you, let's say, if you were a skeleton, I'll bet you your blunt would be like a -2, so you would take an extra 2 points of damage when you get hit by a blunt weapon. My damage, I didn't want all the different damage types. Again, D&D's got 12, Pathfinder's got 80. Uh, I think it's important. Blunt, slashing, piercing. Burning could be acid, right? Actually, you have corrosion. But burning could be like electricity damage, could totally be burning, and so on. Corrosion is like more of acid. Toxic is poison. And fatigue is actually goes against your mental defense. That's your psychic damage. And people saying, oh, what about sonic? Well, that would just, to me, that would be blunt. That type of thing. You don't need to have as many different. And radiant damage, that's just holy fire, is it not? Should it not be fire? Necrotic, well, that sounds like corrosion to me. So you don't need to have all those damage types, in my opinion. Okay. Stabilizing, recovery, got into that. Weapons, did I say anything about the weapons? You have your weapon bonus. That's just your bonus onto your attack. Because your attack and damage is the same, same roll. Basically, the higher the weapon bonus, the more the more damage it does. So if you're looking at medieval style stuff, a lot of the times it's going to be 1 for a one-handed weapon, 2 for a two-handed weapon, or sometimes even 0. Like a unarmed strike is going to be 0, but a dagger could be just 0 with piercing because it that adds to the damage of it. So when you're making an attack, too, you tie the weapon to your skill. So long bow, skill is bow. So you get your bow does your agility 2, plus how many skill level ranks you put into it 3, plus the weapon bonus 1. So you're getting 6 plus 6 to your attack on the longbow, and whatever comes after that is going to be damage, right? And then if you aim, then you're going to have another 3 added to it for your accuracy, plus 1 for the that's 3 accuracy is added onto the already plus 1 for aiming. So if I'm going to shoot that cult and I'm going to attack with the longbow, it already has a distance into my increments 15, so there's no difference. And if I'm going to use aim, I get plus 4 to the roll. Boom. There's an 8. It's a pretty decent roll. I hit for 10 damage. Again, this is a mook, so I'm not that surprised. So got him. Got him pretty good. Sorry about that, all the talking. So weapons also have a reach, obviously. Things like, begin that I'm using meters as well. So they're tighter than the 5 feet that you see in Dungeons and Dragons or that you see in Pathfinder. So because a meter is about 3 feet. And I think that's a little bit more realistic, to be honest. And that means like a lot of times your great sword or whatever will actually have a reach of 2. Pole arms will actually have a reach of 3. And your reach changes too with your size. So if you're large, you automatically add 1 to all your reaches. So if you're a large person with a reach weapon like a polearm of 2, then your reach is actually 3 meters. So something to think about. The reach is a little bit more to that. Anything else that I put in here? Range increment shots, cost, and wealth. I think we already talked about that part. Armor, pretty simple with the armor, to be honest. The defense bonus and might requirement. So if you're wearing something that is below your might or higher than your might requirement, let's say 2, what it automatically does is reduces your move. So you can still wear the armor, um, but it just reduces your move. So that's for obviously like full plate armor and stuff like that. You're going to have a decent might to be able to wear it. And that's the only difference, right? Because you still add your agility to your physical defense, regardless if you're wearing plate or not. But if you don't meet their might requirement, that means your move goes down. That's how that works. There's also shield. I'll go to Sir Owen here for the shield. The defensive bonus, and that is again if you use the defense minor action, because without the defense minor action, the shields do nothing other than take up one of your hand slots. Might requirement for shields as well, because they're heavy. Or some of them are, not like buckler and so on. Is there any other gear? I think there is. Weapons, armor, shields. So I don't like the idea of gear being this giant list that you have. I want to deal with encumbrance either. That type of stuff I find not fun. So you're assumed, and a lot of new game systems are doing this. You're assumed to have the adventuring gear that you need. But if it's something special, like it adds to a skill roll or it's a magic item, something like that, then you can put it in there. For right now, all I've done in the Foundry is just I can create a gear and just it's loot. And what is this loot? It's nice. And you can drag it onto your character sheet. And oh, did I not drag it properly? There we go. So then the loot just shows up in the gear space that you don't necessarily need, but if you want to keep track of it, or in case the gear actually does something like maybe it's really nice lockpicks and gives you a +1 on your lockpick skill. Let's talk about combat. Now this is a big deal. This guy's going away. I'm going to go switch to the Ruined Chapel here. And my fantasy characters, Bran, Elowin the Wizard. We haven't done spells yet, but we'll get to that. Nyx, Sir Rowan, and we're going to get into combat. Oop, don't forget the guy up in the corner. Now, how Surpass does initiative is the GM will decide which group goes first, whether the players or the adversaries. And the scene will dictate that. If there is no clear-cut answer, then the players get to go first. But if you're sneaking up on them, then you're going to go first. If you screw up your stealth check and they know you're coming, then they'll be ready for you, and they go first. And when I say they, I don't mean the entire group. See, what happens is I'm going to say players go first, and then as a group, the players get to decide which of you gets to go first. This is a huge thing, which I wish D&D and Pathfinder would do. A lot of the other systems are doing it this way. And let's say you want a wizard to fireball this whole place, but he didn't roll, or they didn't roll high enough initiative. That's terrible. So I want my wizard to go first. So the player will get to, on their side, they'll get to click on this, and they'll get to go. So then they can cast their fireball, and it's going to hit those 3 people. Let's say I will cast my fireball. We'll get into that stuff a little bit later. I cast it, and it missed the enforcer, but hit both the acolytes. It did only 1 damage each because my dice roll sucked, and it automatically applied the damage. Perfect. So then they're gonna. Oh, it can only go so far, right? Yellow. and then I have a minor action that I will defend on. I'm going to dodge, so to speak. So my defense goes up one in my turn. So now the adversaries get to pick who they want to go next. So I'm going to pick the Iron Mask Ascendant up there. I am going to cast my Fireball. And I hit for 2 points of burning damage automatically applied. And then the next one. Now the players get to go. And the players get to decide who they're going to go next. Oh, I'm going to be Sir Rowan. And I'm going to play him. And I'm going to... can't quite get there, eh? Oh, well. I'm going to go up here. And then I'm going to double move to get here, let's say. And I'm going to raise my shield to give me a 17. By the way, those defenses will automatically fall off on their turn again. And now I'm going to pick this Cult Enforcer next. And he is going to attack with his axe. And aim. Miss. Because he defended, clearly. Anyway, that's the idea. That's the combat. It is back and forth zipper. And also it changes every round. So it's not just the first round that sets it. The first round, let's say you wanted, your wizard to cast the fireball first. And in the next round, maybe you want someone else to go first. And it's usually not, I found in play, this type of initiative system actually works quite smoothly. You're not going to get arguments about players. I want to go first. No, me. You don't really get that. So that's nice. But I quite enjoy that part. What else do we need to talk about? Shoves and trips and grapples and stuff. Okay, well, tripping, it's easy. You make an unarmed attack against someone's. This is for most unarmed attacks. If you beat their PD plus their might for things like trips and grapples, then you succeed. So I'm using brawling. I'm going to roll. It's against their physical defense or mental defense. It's not for a brawl. It's going to be against physical sense. And then I will roll, and it goes against their, and it says success by 2. So it is a success. So I managed to trip them or whatnot. If I was pushing them, same roll, right? Again, the brawling skill, that one's the plain one at 0 all across the board. Maybe if I had judo, the pushing would be higher. Or sumo, if I had sumo, the pushing would be higher. But I succeeded by 2, which means he would go back 2 meters. So that's the unarmed style. And if you grapple somebody, then again, that would be a success. They can use an action to ungrapple. You can make pin them as well. Like if you've already have that person grappled, and then you're going to try to pin them again. So it's another brawling roll. And as long as you surpass their physical defense, which was a success, that means you can, pin him now. So he's prone and grappled. So that type of stuff for the grapples. Spells. This one's interesting because magic. Magic's only in some worlds. When we think of TTRPGs, we're probably thinking of mostly fantasy type stuff. But this game is supposed to be built for all kinds, but there's no reason why you can't have space magic, right? So for magic, you have to have a trait called, I never talked about traits. Well, I probably should. It's kind of a huge part of the game, so I probably should. So traits, there are positive traits and negative traits. Positive traits can be things that are quite simple. I have them even sorted up to exotic, mundane, or supernatural. So mundane, anyone could do. Exotic would mean, well, you're probably not human. So you're looking at the more exotic style of, maybe you have, you can speak with animals. It could be something. Maybe you have 2 heads. I don't know. That would be physical, actually. Exotic would be like 2 heads, I think. Yeah, 360-degree vision because you have an eyes on the back of your head. So exotic is definitely outside of your normal human stuff. And mundane is stuff that you can, common sense, daredevil. So these are things that most humans can have. And then the supernatural is more of like you're blessed from your God. Here's one, you can jump to different times or worlds like Doctor Who. So, and Magery. So these things are bonuses. You get the thing and it costs the points, right? So 10 points into my Magery of 1. Because you have to have the ability to cast magic before, well, you can cast magic, and that is a trait. There is, of course, negative traits. The same way is it gives you things back to you, right? Maybe your absent-mindedness, and if you're absent-mindedness, it gives you 15 points back, and then to spend on something else, and then it tells you, what that actually means. A lot of the times you have to make, clarity checks or whatnot, or some of them are role playing, and some of them actually have, physical things that happen to your character when you have them. But you have to have the ability. So there's Magery, and some of your spells even have a minimum Magery to cast. Let's say Major Healing has a Magery required of 1. Okay, well, that's not. Or was it Great Healing? Magery. Where is it? Magery required 2. So you needed to have that ability, that trait, to be able to cast that spell. Then there is a thaumaturgy skill and you specialize in a school. This is you're actually studying of the magic. So the Magery is your born ability to it, aka sorcery, and your thaumatology is your ability to study the particular school. So, and the schools of magic are right now, I've only have so many spells in the game right now. Here they are: air, body, earth, fire, gating, necrotic, so movement spells. So then you've studied that type, and then you get the actual spell itself. So for this person, they took fire, and they just took 1 point in learning fire specialty. And they have 1 point of Magery, and they took Fireball, which, again, you also have to learn points into Fireball as well. And almost all spells are hard difficulty, which means they take more points to raise. Some spells are very hard, like you're looking at Fireball, and I know what you're thinking, but this is actually kind of Firebolt. There's Explosive Fireball is the one you're really thinking, and that one is a very hard skill, and it takes even more points into it. But you tie your spell to your college and the skill, and whether it's attack or utility, what attribute. I mean, these are usually, most of that is built in, but they're there for you to make your own spells or whatever. How many points it costs? Yes, because point cost for a fireball costs mental health. Uh, Mental health is your mana, so to speak. However, you can spend physical health instead, but um, it actually is a minus on your roll for every point you're taking in physical health. So that's not something you normally want to do, but sometimes you're out of mental health and you want to be able to cast that spell. So let's do her, right? Let's hurt some of yourself to be able to do it. So there's no spell slots. It's off of your mental health, and if your mental health goes to 0, you're unconscious, but not bleeding or dying. And you can always use up your physical health points instead. And can you do one last spell that zeroes out both your mental health and physical health as one last shot? Absolutely. So that's that type of spell. However, I like to point out there are defaults to a lot of the things. So you do have to have the Magery trait, period. So that's not really a choice. You have to have the ability to cast magic in whatever rank that you're putting it in. If you don't study, there is a default, right, of clarity -3, unless there's no magic in your game. That's what it says. So you can totally not be schooled in it and just blast things like a sorcerer. It'll be better if you study, but you can maybe learn on your own, right? Now, you don't have to put the points in your spell either. And so again, you don't have to be skilled in Fireball to do it. So that means if you have the Magery trait, you could technically cast any spell, but the skills you're not going to have be very good at casting those spells, and you spend the points casting it whether you fail or not. So that can also be kind of fun in a way. But if you are proficient in fire spells and you want to cast a different fire spell than when you have skills at, you totally can. You just don't get any extra points for skilled into it. You just get your magery plus your clarity, and then plus your skill in the Mabachi fire. But if you want to cast a earth spell and you have fire, they default to -2 to each other, if I recall right. Uh, where is it? -3. So if you're trying to do an earth spell when you're studied fire, you still can, but you'll be at -3 to the roll. So So the magic there is a little detailed, maybe a little bit difficult to understand sometimes, but you it's pretty flexible to be able to do that. Psionics is quite a bit different. Psionics, a lot of the traits that you see, positive traits that you see in here, could be used with psionics, right? Um, and they're listed under a particular talent. So ESP, if you take a rank in ESP, then then I don't have it here, but I know I have it listed somewhere where all the ESP talents are. Yeah, I'm not putting it in there. I guess I have it in my book. Um, but there's a list of the different positive traits that are listed under the telepathy talent, and then you can put, like here it is, if you put how many ranks in it, then you add that rank towards the trait. So if I even have um, let's say 360 vision, but this is actually going to be not talent, but it's going to be a psionic power, and it's a psychonesis, whatever I pronounce it, type of talent. So then there's my talent of there. I'm going to have one rank in it. That's fine. It does the costs over here, like I'm spending tons of stuff up there. And now if my vision is tied to that, I'm going to put a rank in that, let's say. And then when I use it, I'll have to roll. It adds the correct modifiers, my clarity plus my talent, and there's my result. Uh, and what's the DC? It will depends on what you're actually trying to do. Maybe it's just normally it would be a DC 10, so that would be a success on having your 360 vision through your psychic talent. So that's how that works. And am I back to 100? Yep. So that's almost everything really. So to create a character, you would create actor, and I am Bob, and I come up with a plain character sheet. I have 100 points to spend. Maybe I'm a nice DM and I'm going to give you 200 points to spend. And Bob is going to have a 2 might, and he's going to have a -2 clarity, and I'm going to be large because I'm an ogre, but my status, I'm a lower class, and I don't have much money, and actually I'll even put it even lower, and I speak ogre, and I speak common but broken. Uh, Looks good so far. But my physical health, I'm going to add a whole bunch. I'm going to add a ton to physical health. I don't need mental health. And get my health back up here. And you see there's no gear. Where's all my gear? So this is the character sheet keeps the character sheet a little clean, that it doesn't automatically, put stuff there. So when you add a skill, I want two-handed axe, mace, and I put it in there. Now it opens it up, right? And I'm going to say I'm really good at this two-handed axe mace. And then I'm going to, you obviously have more skills, but you get the idea. And then I'm going to have a trait. What's my positive physical trait? It's going to be hard to kill. Plunk. once I put it in there, you put the cost in there. That's done. And now I'm going to get my gear. And I want it's going to be weapons. I think I have a rank 0 of club. Club. There we go. Club. So once I add it, what kind of armor do I want? Oh, I didn't look at that. Armor, fur. Good. I don't have a shield. So now, look, I still have tons of points left, but you get the idea. You just drag and drop the character. It puts it creates an area if you don't have one already, and it does all the maths for you. Wow, this is a long video to show you Surpass, but that's it for right now. I mean, there's still lots of things that I could add if this game actually is fun to play. I can obviously add more skills. I don't know if I want to do that, but I could totally add more weapons and armor and add more spells. Put in rules for. Um, I don't have any rules for mount rules, like horses or vehicles, like motorcycles or cars or spaceships and things like that. So lots more to expand on, but right now it is at the point where you could run a mini campaign and have fun with it. So I know this was a long one, but I think it's exciting. This is my game system that I wrote in 20 days. Started on December 11th. It is now December 31st, and I went from opening up a notepad and started typing and keeping a journal of it on my Discord to now, which is the first semi-release of it. So you can get the PDF on my Patreon for free. As far as the Foundry system, I'm trying to work with Foundry to try to get it somewhere. I looked at GitHub, and I'm having a hard time trying to figure out how the heck to use that to get up there for other people to be able to download. And when I do, there's going to be a Surpass system and also a module for the compendiums because I guess I don't know enough to be able to tie the compendiums directly to the system. So obviously, I don't know everything, that's for sure. So right now, if you just have the system, you'll just have an empty space where you would be creating your own skills, and it would be empty. But I'm trying to get it all together where knowing stuff is clarity, Darren, and it's going to be very hard. And that's all I need. Uh, So I'm trying to get it out there for as many people that want to play it can play it. And if you are playing it or read it and have comments, please, I would love to hear feedback from it. So thank you for watching this entire video. I really appreciate it. Bye bye for now.